Hey everyone, today for the vlog. So last few days have been kind of weird for me, not in an external way, like life has been pretty normal, quite boring, I have to say, quite boring, and I've just felt like my life feels kind of stale right now. I'm kind of want to say meaningless. Like it's hard for me to see where I'm going with life right now, and yeah, I've been turning to distractions and all that, usual. And in the last month, I've not really stopped myself from watching porn, for example, whereas before I would usually stop myself. And today I really didn't feel like doing that. Like it just didn't feel nice. I don't know. So I decided to just get off the computer and yeah, just be with myself, be with my own thoughts and body. And it was pretty nice. I don't know if I can do that like a long time, but it was pretty nice to do it for like, I don't know, like 5, 6 hours, I'd say. And it got me thinking about some of what I'm feeling lately, and one of them, or those aspects, is related to feeling behind in life. Like just feeling tension when I go on the internet and I feel like people are doing like really amazing work and really that kind of thing. And meanwhile, on my personal life, I just feel super burnt out on everything, and I feel really tired, and I don't want to do anything. And so when I go on the internet, I just feel really bad, because I just feel so guilty for not living up to a certain standard, and it got me thinking, where does this standard come from? Like, where does the feeling of being behind or feeling like you're behind, where does it come from? And so it just hits me, like this term hits me when I was like kind of slowing down, meditating, and all that. The term being society's clock. Like society seems to have a certain rhythm that it kind of coerces people to follow, and it seeps in many aspects of life. But in general, it seems that society creates this like expectation that you have to move forward in a, like a certain timely fashion, right? This whole idea of forward is very it's kind of bullshit. But like does uh does getting a house and does getting married really bring you forward in life? Like if that's not what you really want, is that really good thing? I would say no, right? It always depends on what you want, but society coerces people to follow a certain trajectory, and it's not just the trajectory, it's also like how fast you do it, and that's what I call society's clock. So in life, there very much seems to be this pressure to like move faster through life, but you also see it in sub aspects of life, such as eating, right? Like I don't know if people are the same and notice it around them, but like people seem to really eat fast. Like it doesn't seem like a natural rhythm for us to eat this fast the meals, but maybe how to say? I mean, but then again, a lot of time we don't really have a choice, right? But so it connects back to the overarching rhythm of society, right? Like this whole schedule imposed on us and all that. Another aspect is related to sleep. I think you certainly see that a lot in school where the people are sleep deprived, and they even a lot of people even brag about it. Like, bro, I only slept for 3 hours yesterday, and they kind of play this game of like bragging about sleeping as little as possible. But that's another thing. Not don't really want to expand on that. But yeah, sleep is really neglected, right, in this super frantic rhythm of society. And another aspect is, let me think. Yeah, learning, right? Learning. The rhythm of school is incredibly bad. Like, I remember one of CGP Gray's video on school. I think it was like a Q&A or whatever. But he said that like the rhythm of school, of a classroom, it's good for about like one student out of 25. And for like a few students, it's just too slow and they're bored. And for others, they're just completely lost. And I completely agree with that. The rhythm of a classroom and of learning in general, when it is all in a classroom environment, it's so fucking bad. It's incredibly coercive. Right? Like, it forces you to go to the same rhythm, even though you might need more time to like understand something. Well, the classroom moves forward anyway. And it's just really shitty feeling, right? And The worst thing about society's clock I found is that it's not just that it's coercive, but it's also that it's pretty fucking meaningless. Like, where does it go? What is the direction of society? I think it's one of the things I've talked about in my one of my first vlogs in this period, and those past 4 months is, like towards the end, I talked. I think in my first vlog I talked about how society is both really really fast and it's also like really obsessed with technological progress as fast as possible, but it's also completely like nihilistic, no direction, no end game. It seems like we just live for more productivity, for more technology, but for what purpose? Like, like I think the idea, but it's kind of a bad justification. But I think the idea is supposed to be that technology increases quality of life, but like I think it's completely true when when you have to like struggle every day for food and you have a technology that helps you get more food or like be more reliable. That's really helpful, but that's a huge quality of life increase. Like in our modern day, what are we increasing the technology for? Like, what do people really need more shit? Like, I don't know. Like, I personally don't think so, but you know, I would much rather like rest and have a more chill life. But okay, I mean, different people have different rhythms, of course. But see, that's kind of the thing, right? It's that different people have different rhythms, but society doesn't seem to really embrace that. I mean, I really need to make a video about like what society even is, because I talk about society as if it's like an entity that could like listen to us, but in reality, society is it's an unconscious entity that arises to increase power of human beings, not not increase their quality of life, but increase power. And this is why people are so obsessed with productivity. I would claim is that society is very good at giving human beings power, which and power is very useful to survive right, against other people. But the problem is that this relationship of like what we do for society and what it gives back to us, it's really really subservient. Like it makes humans completely dependent on society. But I don't really want to expand. But the way I view society is that society is a pattern of beliefs that allows humans to become much more powerful than if they were just living by themselves or living in small tribes. So society is a pattern of beliefs that creates power within humans, and power is desirable because it helps us survive. But it comes at a huge cost, right? It comes at a cost of like devoting yourself to those all those beliefs you find in society. It comes at the cost of like being judged all the fucking time based on like the values of your society. It comes at the cost of like being traumatized because it's really hard for me to imagine someone growing up in the Western world, going up to a public school and not being traumatized. Uh, yeah, it's pretty fucking messed up, but that's kind of the world we live in. And so to come back on society's clock, like there's just this sense of like never feeling enough, never feeling enough and always having to chase for more and more. But the thing is that as a child, you kind of didn't have a choice but to move forward and to follow the course of school and that. But as an adult, I think most of that comes from yourself. Like it's self-inflicted, really. This whole idea of being behind. Like now I don't have to go to school. I don't have to like pass tests and all that. Now I just go to my job, and there's a certain like threshold I need to reach to maintain my job, right? And and all that. But like what society demands from me nowadays, it's not as much as when I used to be a kid. And yeah, I feel like most of the mo society's clock is really like internalized, really. Like I feel like that's how the societal program is really maintained. Is that first as a kid you're traumatized into adopting it because you don't have a choice. But then as an adult, the trauma stays, and more and more often than not, it's self-inflicted. You you execute the societal program from yourself. It was as if you were like hijacked as a kid, and now you're running a computer virus. Right? It's kind of like that. And the real thing, well, the important part is of course you might not want to run the virus. I mean, the virus is a very negative connotation, right? I'm not saying that everything in society is bad, but like, the problem with the societal program and the society's clock is that they will um they don't care about your life really. Like society really doesn't care about your life. It only cares about like your productive output and all that, but it doesn't care about your life. But if you're listening to this, I hope that you care about your own life. I mean, like, uh, so and this is why I'm not a fan of like. This is why I spend a lot of time thinking about society. It's because I want to live my true authentic life, and it seems more often than not that society is an obstacle towards that. But at the same time, it's not completely an obstacle. It gives us the internet and many great resources to learn from, but it also creates a lot of like distraction and bullshit programs being spread. So yeah. So society's clock, right? I think you can probably see. I think I've been pretty clear about what it is. I mean, I could have given more examples, but perhaps I could talk also like what one person can do, what I've been trying to do. And I think the main solution towards like what society tries to do with you is to establish a connection with yourself and establish a connection with your body, especially. The rhythm of the body is significantly slower than the rhythm of the mind. And what society interacts with is mostly the mind. It traumatizes people, which means that they have a very poor relationship with their body. They might even like self-coerce and like treat their body as something to like uh, give orders to rather than something to listen to. Like it feels like a lot of people, or maybe that's not true. I don't know if people do that, but it seems like the general sense of relationship with the body that modernity creates is a master to slave relationship rather than like a reciprocal. I listen to my body because it has some things that the mind cannot say. It seems that it's more like in the Western world, it's more like the mind tries to you know command the body rather than being in like an equal relationship. And it's very destructive because you spend all of your time in your body. So if you treat your body in a awful manner and you always try to coerce it, it's obviously it's gonna fight back. Like the body's like a survival. It's like its own entity. It tries to keep you alive, but like if you if you're trying to do stupid shit that threatens the body, then of course it's gonna fight back because its job is to keep you alive. And yeah, so I think the key first point in order to live off society's clock is really to establish a connection with the self and with the body. And I think the best way is to. I'm not really a fan of meditation personally. I think I like meditation, but like as a beginner, it doesn't really feel tangible. I think what is more tangible than meditation at first is more like breathing practices. So focusing on the breath and doing something like not necessarily yoga, but something similar where you really like take your time to move your body in a way that like you know that feels gentle and nice and where you can really feel your body because something like exercising like working out at the gym, it's really good for you, but I think it can be quite damaging when it comes to the relationship you have with your body because it has that same energy of like the mind trying to command the body, trying to like force it to do something. And I think most people need a more gentle relationship with their mind, with their body rather, and also more gentle relationship with themselves. Like self coercion is very very common, and I remember when I was a teenager, I was really really toxic towards myself, and it never helped at anything really. Like when I look back, it never helped. Like it would make sense. Like people sometimes say that if I didn't coerce myself, then I wouldn't be able to do anything, but in my opinion, this is complete bullshit. Like, you don't need a fucking gun to your head to do anything. You can do things out of joy and out of curiosity and out of interest. Like, you don't need a gun pointed at your head to like do something that is difficult. Like, there are many, many sources of motivation and action that are outside of like the self coercion. But the problem is that because it's the main tool that society uses on us, it's the main tool that we end up learning and using, and so it makes us think that like that's the only way to do anything. It's like to create this threat on ourselves. Like if I don't do this, then I'll feel bad about myself and all that. Yeah. So establishing a connection with the body, establishing a connection with the self, and I think removing the really toxic aspects of social media that make you feel bad for not being on like a schedule or something, because really like feeling behind, what this means to me is that you are letting someone's schedule dominate your own rhythm. And it's like maybe for them it's like their own pace and it's like completely fine for them, but like maybe for you it's not, right? It's just like in a race, right? Like you don't want to run the race too fast, and by trying to like follow people who are clearly faster than you, like you will just you want to know your own pace and your own rhythm, and you just follow that up until the end. And I think it's so important to like being able to tell when it's just too fast for you. Like when in school, for example, when you're trying to learn and being able to recognize when something is too fast, or like recognizing when you're tired, right, and that you need rest. Society is really obsessed with productivity, but it doesn't seem to like really emphasize rest as much, even though rest is an incredibly important part of productivity, actually. Like it's like one doesn't come without the other, and yeah, it's a very like short-term mindset to not take rest seriously, because it's a very important thing, but yeah. So right now nothing really comes up when I to add, but I feel like this is a good entry point to this concept that just came to my mind. I think it's a really important concept, you know. And yeah, I guess there's one thing I want to add. So one thing I noticed about time, the perception of time within society, is that this perception is very mechanical. And that actually I think there's a huge difference between like clock time. Clock time is it's a machine, right? I mean, a clock is literally like a machine, and so we have clock time on one hand, and on the other hand we have something like your own personal rhythm. And it seems that in society, like the second one is completely like ignored. So like people talk about hours and days and weeks, but they don't talk about how time feels for them. Well, actually they do, right? They do, but they don't take it as seriously as they should, in my opinion. Because people say like, time flies by faster when you get older. And here's my hypothesis. My first hypothesis is that this time feels faster when you're older is not like how to say, it doesn't increase as you age. It's more like a threshold. Like it's more like when you're an adult, time feels faster than when you're a kid overall. But like when you're an adult, it doesn't really get much faster, in my opinion. That's my first. I'm not super sure about that, but I think it doesn't speed up as much as you might think. Well, it's not linear, right? It's more like a threshold type of thing. The speed of how time feels. The second thing is that the speed at which time feels for you is very related to like how conscious you are, how in touch with the present moment you are. And the thing is that I think the reason why adults feel like time passes so quickly is because we're so fucking disconnected from the present moment, so disconnected from like ourselves, and yeah, just living a very mechanical life, like a life full of repetition, habits, distraction, and all that. Like when I distract myself on the internet, time seems to fly by so quickly. And why is that? I think it's because the perception of time is intimately linked with consciousness, like how conscious you are. I would say there's a huge link between the two. And on the other hand, when I'm doing something difficult, right, like or I'm doing like something that's not as distracting, such as like my 6 hours of staying away from the computer, like time seems to go much more slowly, right? And I think that's because again, you're just much more connected with the present moment. You have to do something that requires consciousness and that requires focus, and that just makes time go slower, right? So I'm not sure I completely understand the perception of time and what seems to make it go slower or faster, but I think that's one huge aspect of it. Is this mechanical versus conscious difference? So clock time is mechanical, perception of time is conscious, and This is why days seem to fly by so quickly when you're an adult, in my opinion. It's because you're so because by the time you're an adult, you're such a mechanical being within this society, unless you do something about it, such as, meditation work, journaling, and all that. You're such a mechanical being that, you just spend so much time in repetition and distraction. And I think that's the main reason why time seems to go by quicker when you're an adult. And I think that's very important, right? Because like when I spend those 6 hours, it really felt like I had so much time on my hand. Like it felt like I could it felt like I could solve any like problem in my life with if I kept doing that a lot. It was quite funny. I think there's definitely a sense in which you can have more time in your life, as in more conscious time in your life. Right? That's definitely a real thing. Having more conscious time in your life. Like you obviously cannot have more clock time in your life. Actually, you can have more clock time in your life if you practice something like related to your body to keep it healthy and like practices that increase your longevity. I don't really know much about those practices, but I think I know that like some I know that yoga is really good if you practice it in like a very in a certain way, and you take care of your diet as well. And I know that some martial arts also help with longevity, for example. So you can definitely increase your lifespan if you want, right? Of course. But I think more important than just increasing your lifespan, I mean, physical health is important, right? So I'm not saying it's not important, but I think another aspect of increasing your time is the ability to increase your conscious time. And I think that's I don't think I've ever heard someone use that term, but now that I see it, it's very clear to me that it's something very possible and quite important, I would say, if you want to live, an authentic life. But I think there's also I'm not like 100% dismissive of distractions or even repetitions, but like habits have their purpose, they have their strength. Like it's good that we can do things on habit, but I think everyone would agree that a life that is 100% based on habits, that's not really a life you would want to live, right? So yeah. So thank you for listening if you got this far, and I would like if I would really like if someone were to listen to this to like share their experience with time, like how do they experience time, and if they have any theory on like why time feels slower, and also like whether they get the feeling of feeling behind in life, because I think that's quite a universal experience, I would say, in modernity because of social media. But I would just like to hear people's experience. But yeah, thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.